Hey everyone, Ben here, and we are back finally on an iRacing grid in the Indycar at Montreal, and we're already underway for our first race here. I'm starting in P4. I've found that I'm pretty competitive here at Montreal as we're barreling towards T1. There's a big incident in the rearview mirror and we get smashed from behind. And even before the race is properly underway, my hopes are dashed. Welcome back to online racing. And unfortunately, I would get the meatball flag. Now look, in the background there you can see somebody misjudging their brakes. That's Henry Sweetlake, and he's going to feature a little bit later on in the video as well. Here's another view. It could have been an even bigger shunt for me as Sweetlake came flying behind me. However, other drivers were able to make it through unscathed. This is on board with Elliot Alderson. Again, we're going to be seeing more of Alderson later in the video. He was able to navigate a route through there very smartly indeed. Unfortunately for me, my race was essentially over, so I had to come back for another go later in the evening. And here we are then, ready to get underway. This time I've qualified P9, so a little bit further back on the grid, but it does look as if up ahead and behind, heading into T1, I've got just a little bit more room to manoeuvre here. So hopefully I'm going to make it further than the entry to T2 this time around. And yes, look at that, we're all snaking through cleanly on this opening lap and getting ready for the very tricky braking zone. Downhill, snaking right then left, keep it out the wall on the right hand side, but somebody hasn't managed that. That's the leader. Marcus Perez is out of the race very early on. Thankfully we were able to get past unscathed. Hopefully other drivers were able to do likewise, so we're already making up positions on this opening lap and crucially keeping out of the wars as well. That's the primary aim for this opening part of the race. Just keep it nice and clean and just be wary that tyres are not up to temperature yet. And I think up ahead, yes, it is Henry Sweetlake, who of course was part of that incident in the opening race. He's caught out through the chicane, he's slow, and it's our other friend Elliot Alderson from that first session has managed to make his way past. So now I've got Sweetlake right up ahead of me, Alderson ahead of him, and not long to go before we hit the dreaded final chicane here at Montreal and try and avoid crashing into the wall of champions. There was just a little bit too much weaving there for my liking from the drivers up ahead, so I took it nice and easy, tried to prioritise getting through cleanly, and we were able to do it. But let's go back to the opening part of that lap and see Perez sliding out. He just got loose through the exit of the corner, and that was enough to pitch him into a spin. And unfortunately, although he held his brakes, eventually he was collected by another driver. We resume the live action then on lap 2, and I'm up into P6, hot in pursuit of the drivers up ahead. Look up the track and Berens has got it wrong into the left-hander. A very easy mistake to make. He's just gone in too hot there, has misjudged his braking and has gone off onto the runoff area. So that's another position gained. I'm up into P5, and with Sweetlake just up ahead, Alderson ahead of him, I'm actually now in the fight for a podium. The debris flag is out. Someone's had an excursion through the gravel there. We're able to make it through cleanly, and as we get forward onto lap 4, this battle now for the final podium spot is heating up. There's around a second covering all three of us here as again we snake right and then get hard on the brakes and just try and hug a nice tight line here, open up the exit of the corner, try and get on the accelerator as early as possible without losing the rear end of the car. And I was slightly quicker than Sweetlake through that section of track there. Again, very tricky corner this as we brake underneath the bridge, and Sweetlake's gone in just a little bit hot. This could be a critical chance here. Overtaking opportunities do not come around often. I'm going to have to try and press home my advantage here into the hairpin. Can I get the car slowed down? Can I get the car rotated? Oh, there's a slight bit of contact there. Was that a bit of a block pass? I've managed to squeeze past, but was it really a fair move? Well, let's see it on replay here. Oh, it is marginal. I wasn't able to hold a tight line there. I just cooked it slightly too hot coming into the corner, very difficult at that point to get the car in. It wasn't the most blatant block pass I've seen, but ideally I would have kept a much tighter line there and avoided even the small bit of contact that we did have. So apologies to Henry for that. Thankfully we both came away without damage, and I've managed to get up one position in this race. And over the course of the next set of laps I was able to reel in Alderson just a little bit, and I'm now in contention to try and challenge for P3. And look, just a bit further up the road we are approaching back markers here, and that could be critical in the final stage of this race. Is Alderson going to be able to get through the traffic here? And he's already made a small mistake there, a lock-up into the left-hander, just perhaps put off by the driver up ahead, and that has allowed me to close right in then. Now the fight for the podium really is on as we get hard on the brakes again, try and snake through this right and left, and Alderson still potentially a little bit flustered in the cockpit. Look now, there is no gap between us. This move could be on into the hairpin. He's gone to the inside, and then he closes off the racing line. Thankfully I'm on the brakes early enough to not career into his rear wing there, but never mind that. We are now really in this fight for the final podium position. Eventually the back marker peels off to the right hand side. I'm hopeful I'm going to get past as well before the chicane, and I am, and the damage has been done to Alderson's race now. I've got to press home this advantage. I've got to try and crank up the pressure on Elliot Alderson before the end of this race and see if I can't force a mistake and get up onto the podium before the checkered flag. We're at the start then of lap 8, the gap 0.3 seconds as we snake through T1 and T2. Alderson just moving around a little bit there on acceleration. Another big factor in this series is tyre wear and tyre temperatures. We're all on the option tyre here because it's a sprint race, but you do notice performance drop off even in the context of an 11-lap race. You've got to be really careful to manage tyres throughout this race. I wasn't pushing too hard at the beginning of this session. Maybe that's going to give me more tyre life towards the end of this race as we both swoop past another back marker there. Alderson not losing too much time this time around, but again I'm still hot on his heels. 0.3 seconds is the gap. We've been able to drop sweetly just a little bit further there. He's now not in contention for this podium position. It's a straight shootout between myself and Alderson as once again we go painfully slowly through the hairpin, then get on the gas as early as you can without lighting those tyres up and try and maximise the speed down this back straight. I'm not going to be anywhere near close enough to mount and overtake into the final chicane, but if I can get a good journey through that corner, maybe I can set something up into T1. We're both a little bit cautious through the corner there, but again the gap 0.2 seconds now as we cross the start finish line once more to begin lap 9. Not many laps left then in this race. I'm not close enough to get alongside into T1 or T2. I'm going to have to settle back in underneath his rear wing once more, but surely the pressure now on Alderson is building as we get towards the end of this race. And we've already seen it doesn't take a big mistake to end up costing yourself a lot of time. So I've just got to keep going here, keep trying to put pressure on, and look at that, Alderson has had a lock-up into the left-hander. It's not a big mistake, but it could be a pivotal one as I'm able to squeeze past then into P3, and we've done it. We're up into the podium spot. Who'd have imagined that when I was starting this race down in P9, and all of a sudden now the pressure is on me. I've got to now not throw this away, hold on to P3 because Alderson still in close attention. But who's that up ahead? It looks as if it's Miguel Fichardo. He was in P2, and what's happened to his race? He was off on the runoff area. Let's find out then. First, here's a replay of me getting past Alderson. Just a small lockup into the left-hander, enough to put him offline, and that was enough to allow me to then get past. But this is a much bigger incident for the P2 man. He's going to get loose on the exit of the corner, and the barrier is very unforgiving there, and he's absolutely smashed the front right corner of his car. That is going to be a big repair required. And so as we get on to lap 10, quite incredibly, I'm running in P2. However, even if we've only got a lap and a half left of this race, I'm not having it all my own way. Elliot Alderson still around half a second behind, and critically, I have ran out of push to pass. I've got no more boost button left. Alderson does. So we've popped up the TV camera from his perspective here. he is going to be closing in on me all the way down this big long back straight. We've only got one more complete lap left to go, so time is not on Alderson's side. However, he does have the advantage of that little bit of extra boost, and of course he's now the hunter, and I'm going to be feeling the pressure from him behind. I've got to keep it neat and tidy, but equally I've got to keep my pace up. He's going to be looking for any gap to try and reclaim that position as we get into then T2 for the final time. Try and get the car rotated on the gas as early as possible. Tyre performance well and truly is dropped off now. Our lap times really suffering as a result. It's never been more easy to make a mistake, just to push a little bit too hard, loop the car, put it into the barriers, as we saw from the P2 driver earlier on there. I've got to make sure I don't fall foul of that. Alderson is gaining through the middle part of this lap, but there aren't too many more opportunities now, as long as I'm able to keep the car pointing in the right direction for him to get past. Hard on the brakes then, under the bridge, one final time, and Alderson's gone in too hot behind me. That, again, a small mistake, but a crucial one, as the gap now extends above 1 second, and that is surely now enough for me to be able to take the final chicane one more time and claim P2. What a first race back on the channel after quite a long break. I absolutely love that. I cannot recommend the Indycar enough. It is getting towards being one of my favourite cars on the service, and this was such a fun but challenging combination this week. If you get the chance, I definitely recommend you give it a go. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, remember, leave a like, get subscribed to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and do check back regularly for more sim racing action.